Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in a little bit more in depth on a great viewer question, and that is to understand the female psychopathic manipulation. Female psychopathic manipulation. You must understand that these types of individuals might come across as very powerful, as very driven, as very fearless, as very brave, as very courageous, as very enamoring, meaning that you just might find yourself pandering for their attention, clawing for them to get to notice you, becoming an energetic match to their energy, especially when it can be this very high risk behavior which gets you to violate boundaries that you have had in the past. This then becomes understood or oftentimes interpreted by the person who they do target or scope. Eventually they will victimize. It's important to understand that the female psychopath is manipulating for their own ends, their ends only. Oftentimes they might come across as being very needy, very slow, having a lot of problems, have a sob story. Poor pitiful me, I just got out of this divorce, I just lost this job, I just lost my house, this person did this and this to me, I just had, when oftentimes this is meant to as a tactic of manipulation from the beginning. A tactic of manipulation from the beginning. Most people don't understand that the female psychopath looks at things through a much different pair of glasses or filter than the rest of society. We're talking about what is thought to be 1% or 4% of the population with this antisocial disorder. Complex, superiority, whatever you might want to call it. Use a label, don't use a label, but it's very important to understand that these people don't take relationships, they take victims. And I don't say that in a positive light. I send that in a ringing the bell of caution, ringing the bell of warning. I'm putting on the sirens here for you emotionally. That these people will work to fall their prey, i.e. make them fall over, make them unfunctional, dysfunctional, unhappy, miserable, in the poorhouse, wondering what happened to them. Where did all my life go? Where did all my affection go? Just having these complete whirlwind, making your head spin moments, oftentimes and very, very difficult to work through, understand, and get support for. Because these individuals do scope out individuals for their prey. Dr. Robert Hare. Read his books, read his checklist. Get familiar with these types of individuals. Oftentimes, you might think that these people are only male. When you're talking about a female, we're talking about someone who is a master manipulator, someone who might come across as fearless. They might come across as very driven, in answer to your prayers. This is the wind beneath my wings. You might have had, and that does not mean that a woman cannot be all these things. But when you're dealing with a female psychopath, you're talking about someone who has a different neurochemistry, a different wiring within. And oftentimes they can be very, quote unquote, good, very tight at what they do, very complete, very stealthy, very undetectable from the human eye. This is cunning and deceiving, not able to be detected, covering their tracks, wiping up their footprints, wiping up their fingerprints, and then also kind of creating a smoke and mirrors effect where they want you to be distracted or looking at something else. Look over here, why over here I steal this. There's all sorts of manipulation that goes on within the course of this experience. And the problem with the manipulation is so complete that it often gives them an out all the time. It gives them an out to evade accountability for the abuse. They will not, it's very difficult to hold them accountable and come to a closure or a discussion. Of course, they're not going to come out and say, I am this way. That is for you to understand. They will say things out of context, very indirect, almost as if they're talking out of the side of their mouth at you or in passing. A very indirect type of communication without eye contact, without facing the regular plane of your body. Or they might have manipulative gestures that they use time and time again to anchor into you and train those individuals whom they are targeting how to respond. We're talking about a complete manipulation of others. We're not talking about just for one event, or we're talking it becomes very thorough, very replete, very saturated, very overwhelming, to the point where people cannot oftentimes control themselves. They can't control their energy, their sleeping patterns, their eating patterns, their thought patterns. They begin to then act out of character. And they oftentimes might feel that this is part of their growth. So part of the delusion is then you are buying their deception, and then people then become self-deceptive, self-debilitating. And they're then internalized and will also then sort of have this sort of self-destruct button or emotion. This is coupled with the manipulation. And the rebuff, which means they will also have a tendency to rebuff or snub others as part of their manipulation. They're like a slippery fish. They are very difficult to get a hold of. When they rebuff, meaning that even some of the friendly things that you are normally about, oftentimes then becomes interpreted as you are not enough for me. They are then onto their other sort of prey, but they will then begin to reject even the friendly gestures. They'll just sort of shoot people down. They will weaken you and break people down so that it gives them an ability to get their hands into your control, into your circuits, into your own inner wiring. This is very scary. This is not just like a great relationship that you had that is maybe difficult and your heart broken. We're talking about something else entirely. Your heart might be broken as well, but there are many, many more deep layers of manipulation. It can be anchored with a hand gesture. So they might always grab your arm or grab your neck or grab your side while they're sort of anchoring in how they want you to feel. It becomes neuro-linguistic programming. It becomes to the point where they will then create a thought pattern in others that they want you to act in accordance with. So carry out their plans of manipulation for them. You become their pawn unknowingly. And this might be saturated with the feeling that you are doing this out of the name of love, or maybe you're in a committed relationship with this person, or you're in a professional relationship and this is to help the business. So it might have all sorts of other sort of marinades or encasing around it as well. But the problem is that part of the manipulation is to make it so that you cannot ever have a true open communication. They will deny and deny and deny. They will lie to their own ends. Whatever it is that they will want, they will work to see what they get. They engage in high-risk behaviors and then will pull others along with them. So you didn't think that you would do this. You didn't think that you would become this much of a gambler. You didn't think that you'd become this much of a traveler or an investor or all these different things. And you find now that you are looking at the pieces on the table of where your life is at, and things ain't working anymore. The pieces ain't fitting. You've got a big old-fashioned, puzzle that you feel that you want to throw out, and that feels like your life. You're not going to throw out the baby with the bathwater or the bathwater with the baby, whatever that means. You are not falling for it. You are not having it. And they will, they are always into the persona management, controlling how they want others to perceive them. And their personas can oftentimes be very contradictory in energy. In other words, they come across one way here, and then over here, they act like somebody else. Oftentimes, if these two were to be together, they would cancel each other out. In other words, they might, have a dance with you and then come over here and talk about, and they'll tell you, oh, you were such a great dancer, da, 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 da. And then go over here, oh, that person was a terrible dancer. I mean, they will rebuff. They will create the psychopathic gossip. They will plant the seeds in other people's ears. They will use the flying monkeys. The people who they will use as a pawn against you, you never thought would turn against you. Your grandkids, your secretaries, your neighbors, your family members. They will use brainwashing and gaslighting to distort a sense of reality. And when you get even closer to them or trying to settle the score, this is really when the damage is going to get hurt. They really have a very limited spectrum of what you might see as emotions. You might get the psychopathic rage, where they come out very strong, in other words, just holding their own. You might just say, see it as a positive, but there is something more going on than meets the eye, but you can't quite put your finger on it. This person is different. This person is a unicorn. You might have had all these other descriptors. And these descriptors might be positive in the beginning. This person might seem extremely fearless. And this might feel like a very positive, and then causes you to be very transfixed on them, very fascinated, because it's amazing that this person is so high energy, or it's amazing this person is so fearless, that they're so calm under pressure, that they are such a hustler, that they can talk a specific way to others. So do you see, oftentimes this gets with a positive painting over it, but there is something more creepy and eerie going on, especially when your own experience is called into question, your own quote-unquote relationship. They're no longer spending the time with you. They're no longer there for you. You find that they're changing their appearance. They're changing other things that seem radical. You no longer feel that things are all right. You've got this sneaky feeling something is off. And the high-risk behavior you might then become addicted to. So the feeling of angst, paranoia, love, infatuation, all these different chemicals that are seemingly disparate or disparaging in quality, which means that they're not simultaneously, begin to be experienced simultaneously within the target and then ultimately the victim. In other words, you are then having someone else's hands in the operating system of your being, of your guts, of your perception, of your I am. Meaning that they have indoctrinated you in a way of thinking, feeling, and behaving in what you might call psychopathic talk, psychopathic babble, psychopathic word salad, I think are some of the words that are used in the industry. Things that you don't think that you would experience or know how to manage within yourself. You might experience this as a very strong attraction to this individual. Hyper arousal, which means they will use the spoken word to arouse, to distract, to stroke, to manipulate, to direct your perception so that you're looking at things in the way that they want you to look at. In other words, they're using props to get you not only as a comfort or a background, but as a way for you to perceive and make sense that makes it easier for them to manipulate you, if this makes any sense. It is very difficult. We could talk about this, just this topic, in a docuseries for you to understand it. I mean, this is just sort of a glossary or a glossing over. You might have to really watch a lot of the videos. But to understand that these individuals oftentimes then don't, because of the wiring in their brain, the amygdala, the fear center, that shows reduced activity, even when most people would be frightened of fear, come to the rescue of somebody. These people, can just be standing motionless. Their dog just got put to sleep and they're just sort of unmoved, or they've just realized that they, hurt their children something or financially, and they're just not affected. They just seem to be like a stone wall. And oftentimes this can be interpreted as a positive quality, like, wow, like you handled so well under stress. But this also has very pathological implications for those people who are in regular good old-fashioned relationships with them. The prefrontal cortex, which is the ability to have a vision for judgment, for morality, for following the law, for lawfulness, for abiding by the rules, playing by the boundaries. This is also shows reduced size in the brain maps of those people who are psychopathic. This is the learning center as well. So you might find that these people have a poor sense of judgment and a lack of conscience, lack of not consciousness or awareness, but a lack of morality. They do not have regret or remorse for the hurts, the stealing, the lies, the pathology. They do not feel guilt, bad remorse, qualms, hung up, get stuck on things. And then, but if they are frustrated, you might see the psychopathic rage, which just becomes literally like in a grown individual, like a 2-year-old temper tantrum. They might kick the wall, a grown adult that's, in a suit, composed, easygoing, that all of a sudden they just might freak out and just act literally like a 2-year-old on the floor, doing this and pounding the floor. Making strange sounds, making strange looks like a primitive animal. And so this is a manipulation tactic, and it gets people to be shut down. You can't, when they're having a temper tantrum, it's very difficult, and then they will rebuff and reject others, especially those who have supported them. It does not make sense the degree to which then they reject, oftentimes, the people who they quote unquote love in their life. So they don't really have the same insides, if you will, that you think that they have inside. This is part of the perception problem. And a lot of people then get into a high tolerance of pain in this relationship because they become an energetic match to this individual, which also has a high threshold for pain, which means that it's, if you're standing in the way of them getting what they want, they will then take other supply, they will develop another persona, whatever it takes to get there, but they might keep your plate spinning in the air, so to speak, to keep a number of supply sources or a number of victims in their life going. And they can let you go and you will never hear from them again. And then you might have them coming back, and then this can be your ultimate test to see if you have learned the lesson. The problem is that they don't learn the lesson. They don't feel that they have done anything wrong. You cannot have closure, a handshake, a kumbaya, a come to Jesus, a powwow with them, a high five, make up conversation, and then we're all moving on. That is not going to happen with these people. They just don't have this in their wiring. They're also hypersensitive to the reward chemical dopamine. So when they want something, they want something. They are not looking back. Even the strangest of things. You might find they're looking for a doorknob, and then all of a sudden you find the doorknob in your office missing. You might, just strange things that they will take, that they need. A door jamb that they just want to take, and it is yours and you just find it missing. Maybe strange things missing, a silverware, a piece of clothing. And they will do these strange things and put them in strange places. It becomes very odd. People who then expose them become like a super sleuth, like an investigator, like a paranoia, and they simultaneously want to continue to still think like the psychopath, but yet they know that it's becoming toxic. It's becoming overwhelmed. And this psychopath will always evade the truth. So they will exit stage left, stage up, stage down, stage right, stage sideways, wherever it is. They will exit, and they will not be held accountable for the abuse, for the manipulation, for their pathological lying, for how they've hurt you. They just are not going to get it. They are completely not the person that you think they are. There's something else going on. It's not that they've just changed their ways or their heart. It's not a change of heart. They're unstable in nature. They will take a number of different targets depending on whatever it is that they want. So this high propensity and sensitivity to dopamine, which is that feel-good chemical, which most people will experience, and then it'll be rewarding. A psychopath is thought to be 5 times as sensitive to that reward chemical. So, and then coupled with the other different structures that have abnormalities or anomalies, if you will, that brain scans will show in those studies that they have conducted to look at brain scans to understand the neural activity, shows that there are formative differences in the brain, in the wiring, in the neurochemistry of these individuals. So you're not just dealing with a bully, you're not just dealing with a tough or difficult person when you're dealing with a female psychopath. You're really dealing with like a very stealthy, cunning, maneuvering type of situation that is very difficult to process, but you oftentimes know something is wrong and it cannot be articulated. And so with this sensitivity, though, to dopamine, and oftentimes even in females, a high level of testosterone. So they might have a real sort of strength to them, if you will. And then so this sort of allows them to go for their target and really be all in whatever it is that they want. So again, you might say that they're driven, they're ambitious, they're high energy, they cannot be satisfied, they have a voracious appetite. This might include sexuality, intimacy, finances, where they will hyper arouse others. And the problem is they oftentimes do this by breaking down others. They will break people down through a number of different ways. So through that, a lot of like, wow, this person is so different. Look at the way that they put their napkin. Look at the way that they put their glasses. I mean, they will do all sorts of different things that sort of command a room, and they will create sort of a play of the room. This is what they do. They will play a company. They will play an organization. They will play a family, a community. They will play others. They will adopt a persona, a mask, whatever it is will fit the occasion. So a very changeable nature. We're not talking about someone who is flexible and good with all sorts of people. We're talking about someone who is putting on a persona designed to get what they want from that situation. So they might be on vacation for a couple weeks, and then they might do this persona. They might need something over here and have that persona. Over here, I mean, they are changeable. And we're talking on very complete personality changes. Not just, I mean, sure, some actors. I mean, do you see what I'm saying? Some actors who can play different roles. It becomes like a metamorphosis of character. So this same metamorphosis you can see in the individual, and oftentimes people will see this when the mask drops. You can see their energy So once they sort of stop pushing it out, if you will, and then their energy drops, you will see a completely different expression on their face. I mean, in fact, tons of studies are being shown, are going on right now in AI that are part of that whole surveillance, where they're able to really learn a lot about people just from their face and the micro expressions, more than you would even know. Like, they can tell your sexual interests, your preferences from your micro expressions. So when you see when you see this mass drop, the color in their face might look different. Their musculature on their face might look different. Their expressions, literally almost even the color or the look of their eyes, the shape of their eyes. It's like, and then you will get a chill that you did not, because you feel a sense of coldness then coming off of them. You're realizing this is a cold and unfeeling individual. And this can be terrifying for people to see if they have seen it. Sometimes people do not see the mask. Sometimes the psychopath is very manipulative to the fact that they cover their tracks. They wipe off their fingerprints. They wipe off their foot tracks. They change their browsing history. They reboot and clear their computer. They change their phones. They will do this. They will change pictures around. Put up pictures of you and then pictures of someone else during a different part of the day. It is a fake. It is a shell front. It is a shell situation, a shell company, a shell. And oftentimes it's very hollow or very cold and contradictory inside to what you see on the outside. And the manipulation is becoming very more refined for these individuals with time, especially if you found that yourself sort of wrapped around their finger. It might feel very difficult to extract yourself from their influence. This might be felt as a very strong addiction or a need for this person in your life. You have to get a hold of them right away. You have to find out what they're doing right away. You want to be in that vibe that they are in. They make it desirable, but then what you end up desiring is your own self-rejection, your own abandonment of self, because they will hollow out their victims really and truly on a very complete sense of their own identity, their own I am, recognizing how they think, how they feel, what they want, what they've been working for their whole life. Oftentimes, you see these people having midlife crises, selling off all their stuff for these people or whatever it is. And then they're just like, I don't know how this all happened. I don't know what happened here. People then are in, a shock and horror and almost like a deer in a headlight. They feel then very alone and quote unquote without their life energy anymore, because it has been replaced by an addictive, hyper aroused energy that creates then, which is embedded through psychopathic word salad, strange statements and commands that are whispered, spoken indirectly, used with items in the room. They will use and couple strange connections and get you to perceive things differently than what it is. They might just use the shapes of things, and this is sort of a way for them to say, this is, they just, and another, I'm not going to go there right now on this video, but they use very twisted and enigmatic, meaning very puzzling speech. And oftentimes that is geared to hyper arouse, seduce, distract, throw off, break down, get you to laugh, get you to stop focusing on what you're supposed to be focusing on, stop doing your work, stop doing your sleep. They become one who wants to get you hooked like a fish, hook, line, and sinker that you then swallow and have a difficulty getting out. You then feel sort of, they have an ability to pull you around in their own swim pool, just like when you catch a fish. And then, you might feel the tugging on your line to get yourself back, but then to the female psychopath, they just go, ha, 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 I got them even deeper. It is a very insidious, very treacherous and a very scary and awful thing to experience with this individual. It can make you feel very foreign, very unloved, very rejected. They will go for a character assassination, feeling that you don't even, deserve to exist. You are then non-attractive. I mean, they will lead you to believe all sorts of hideous things about yourself, the world, and that that your thought patterns are stupid, or they will go for whatever it is. They will make fun of you, make fun of your family, ridicule others who then they pander and get cozy with. So it is a very difficult thing to extract yourself from, but extract yourself from these people you must. You must really reclaim your personal power, your I am. Resensitize yourself. Come back to yourself. You have yourself. This is very important for you to rekindle that relationship with self. Restore a sense of normalcy, a sense of reality, a sense of self-actualization and self-esteem, self-trust. These are all experiences that are subject for erosion when you're in these individuals. So you might have to do also a lot of self-repair and self-reinventing and self-building. This becomes a real restorative and rehabilitative healing part of your journey. And you might become very advanced in your healing, but you can still be subject to being tested by these individuals. So please be careful. Please protect yourself from these types of individuals. You are not too sensitive. You're not making this up. You are not going crazy. You know your truth. You know what you feel. You know the harms that you have seen. You know the harms that you have felt. Stop doubting yourself. Believe in yourself. Believe in yourself 100%. And know this. This will be what liberates you, heals you, and sets you free. Do not be afraid to let go of the fearful thoughts and attachment and addictions. This is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. And I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and for goodness sake, please donate for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Peace be with you, and have a beautiful day.